Secretary Blumenfeld, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have you on the show. And obviously, I live in California as well, so really interested to hear about your initiatives and your priorities. President Biden is about to map his climate plan. We're expecting the strongest U.S. action ever to be taken to confront climate change. How aggressive do you expect the president will be?
First of all, Emily, I mean, it's just amazing what a difference a week makes. I mean, literally, we were still bringing lawsuits against the Trump administration the day before the inauguration. So, it is such a huge welcome change. And I think it kind of deserves a second to just realize how important it is to tackle this issue head on. And day one, executive orders, Biden came out and rejoined the Paris Agreement, looked back at about 100 environmental regulations across the board and said, we really need to set the record straight. We need science to dictate what we're doing, and we need to move forward aggressively. And so it's one of his 4 pillars with tackling the pandemic, economic recovery, equity, and climate change. So this is a big deal. I mean, it's a really big deal. And we're just thrilled that the Biden administration is taking this so seriously.
Where did the Trump administration actually leave us when it comes to U.S. climate policy?
So, Emily, I mean, they completely left us. I mean, they left us at a place where our policies are in tatters. Many of those have been litigated, are in the courts, but internationally, we really dropped the ball. We were the only country that pulled out of Paris. So 190 other countries are forging ahead and really looking at how to tackle this. And really, it's been an economic opportunity lost. When you look at electric vehicles, when you look at production of renewable energy from solar to wind, when you look at energy efficiency, this is an opportunity to win. And really, where we were left at a place that we have to pick up the pieces and move forward. There's a lot of damage that's been done to the system, and the institutions like Environmental Protection Agency really has been left in tatters. So a lot needs to be done to rebuild.
Now, you and I live in California, where we're threatened by unseasonable wildfires, irregular weather, now regularly. What are your biggest concerns? What are the biggest climate threats to the planet right now?
So, Emily, I think we all thought that the impacts of climate change would be decades away, right? What we're seeing here in California is our agency alone just spent $2.5 billion cleaning up from last year's wildfires. We're back in cleaning up another whole season of wildfires. And what we found is that the cost of not taking action on climate change is incredibly high. Namely, if we don't take action, we in California are showing the rest of the world and the nation how much it's going to cost. So for us, big things we need to tackle are transportation. So we need to get ourselves off fossil fuel and move towards electric vehicles. Governor Newsom put an executive order forward saying all new passenger vehicles sold in California need to be electric by 2035. We need to deal with energy, the energy sector, and Biden's been very bold in this area and said by 2035, we need to get to carbon neutral energy. So namely, get off fossil fuels like coal and gas and 100% renewables. We need to deal with how we heat our homes and our buildings. And California, 40 cities have led already and said all new buildings need to be plugged and built for zero emissions. So California has kind of led the way. We've had Republican governors like Schwarzenegger, then we had Jerry Brown, and now we have Gavin Newsom. So 3 governors in a row have been pushing for hard climate action year after year after year, unlike the federal level where kind of the pendulum swings back and forth. And what we found, Emily, is that economic development in the state has really been tied to these new innovative businesses, whether it's solar or electric vehicles. It's the way to go, and we're excited that the rest of the nation wants to join in.
Well, a company like Tesla, which is, of course, far and away the leader in electric cars and a huge part of helping the world reduce emissions, Elon Musk built their latest plant in Texas. He's moved there himself. He's complained about California policy. How concerning is that? And how important is it to fight to keep Tesla with a home base in California?
So we have a good relationship with Tesla. There's also 34 other electric vehicle manufacturers in the state. So Tesla's obviously the biggest, but 34 other companies have moved to California saying they want to build vehicles here. And then we have 62 manufacturers of parts for electric vehicles in the state. So Tesla just is building their new battery facility in Fremont next to their facility there. So, Tesla, I think, is going to become a global company, is a global company. They're going to have facilities outside California as well, but we maintain very strong goal to work with Tesla and all the other facilities and companies that want to build in California. Emily, our number one export from California now is electric vehicles to the rest of the world. So incredible that it's really got to the level that it's material in terms of our economic recovery.
Now, does California still need the right to set its own emission standards for cars? I know that was a big fight with the Trump administration. Biden's now calling for a national standard. So does that mean we don't need that waiver?
Yeah, so Emily, back 50 years ago when the Clean Air Act was created, people couldn't breathe in LA. The reason that California was given special permission to set higher than national level standards is because we needed it. And then other states, now 15 other states, follow California's rules and set stronger standards than the national. So what Trump wanted to do is pull the carpet from under us. He tried to do that unsuccessfully. We're excited to work with the Biden administration to move forward. And it gets a little bit technical, but basically it's important that we work together with the autos, with the Biden administration to set standards. The key ones are between now and 2026, but then what do those standards look like after 2026 for the future of the automotive industry? And you're seeing everyone from Bill Ford Jr. to Mary Barra at GM all investing, doubling down on that investment, because they're realizing not only is it the future here in the United States, but in the European Union, in China, and India, electric vehicles will be the future.
Companies like Amazon and Uber were just on our show in the last few weeks, trumpeting their sustainability initiatives. We're regularly covering Facebook, Google, Apple, Microsoft, the biggest technology companies in the world. What more do you want to see companies like this do? And are they doing enough?
Yeah, so the first thing that they talk about, which is important, is their server farms. Like as people are watching this right now, takes a huge amount of energy. Getting all of their facilities to zero emissions is critical. Education is another part that those big companies can play in helping people understand what they can do. Amazon obviously is a particularly complicated one. They've made big commitments to move towards a renewable fleet for their vehicles, but they could do it much quicker. The same is true with packaging. Like I get calls all the time from folks saying, we just got to end the plastic packaging and all this crap that we can't do anything with even in a place like California. So I think the really cool thing about Biden is that he's not only combining equity and climate change, but he's also combining all these other agencies and departments and saying to Secretary Buttigieg at transportation, you need to focus at this, and Secretary Vilsack at ag. It has to be in all of the above strategy. So the companies need to make sure they're looking at their footprint as well as the impact they're having on climate in terms of their products.
I could talk to you for hours about packaging as my Amazon boxes pile up. It is certainly not sustainable. I want to, though, get some more specifics on server farms. Can you give us an idea? I mean, we're so sort of removed from, how this technology is brought to us and everyone around the world. What damage do server farms do to our planet?
Yeah. So Emily, if you think about anything, like anything from the light that's plugging into our computers, like the server farms, it takes a lot of energy to run Google. It takes a lot of energy to run iTunes or any of these big back-end operations. And so they have a choice about where that energy comes from. Partly that's even siting. If you site it in a country that has a lot of renewable energy or that is cooler, because you need to cool all these computers in the back, all these servers in the server farm need to be at a very cool temperature. So if they're in a cool country like Sweden that also has a lot of renewable energy, you're going to have less of a footprint than if it's in a hot country with less renewable energy. So it's making a commitment to say, they have a very large carbon footprint, which relates to letting carbon into the atmosphere that used to just, the sunlight used to come in from space and go back out, but now the carbon in the atmosphere traps it. And so we want to reduce carbon emissions as much as possible. And the server farms as a growing sector can be a place where they stand up and say, you know what, we're committed to 100% renewable energy. Google has done that. I know Apple has done that, and others are stepping up to say, we're going to make this commitment.
Now, President Biden's goals are ambitious and will require Republican support, the support of various different environmental groups. How likely is it that you think he can actually unify all of these people at a time when unity seems to be in very short supply in this country?
I'm kind of optimistic, Emily. I think being an environmentalist, you kind of have to be an optimist that it's going to turn out okay. I think the jobs agenda really is something that speaks to Republicans and Democrats alike. The agenda of really making sure that we think about infrastructure in a way that internalizes. So how do we rebuild our transmission infrastructure? How do we think about renewables in a different way is something that appeals to a bipartisan majority. So I think there is a space. More and more Republicans in our state are waking up to the fact that they're vulnerable to the impacts of wildfire and climate change or sea level rise. And so I think you are seeing a change. I think you are seeing people come to the table in a more collaborative spirit. Even in a very partisan world, I think people are realizing that climate is something that we need to wake up and deal with in a comprehensive and bold fashion. And so I'm hoping that tomorrow is met by yeah, we don't agree with all of it, but let's move forward together on the things that we do agree on. And that would be huge.